and welcome to the Koach Katlyn Show. I'm your host, Koach Katlyn, and I'm so glad you've decided to join us today in the Koach Katlyn offices at the Pink Couch. Today I have a special guest co-host with me, Miss Paula G. Welcome.
It is a pleasure to be here.
I am so happy you are here, and we are going to get to hear more from her today. I'm so excited about the topic we get to discuss today, so you don't want to turn the channel, turn your app, you want to listen fully to this. But before I go on, I just always like to tell people, if you're a first-time guest here on the show, welcome. Make sure you go to Koach Katlyn on YouTube and different apps to find more of the episodes. This show exists because I am for your future. I want you to thrive in the areas of life, love, and leadership. And so that's why we're here. I am a life coach, a certified life coach, have my master's degree in it. And a life coach is simply somebody who tells you to do what you don't want to do so you can become who you want to be. So, and I don't just like to do it through this show on the Pink Couch. I like to do it throughout the week. So make sure you're following Koach Katlyn, Coach with a K, on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Koach Katlyn, that's Coach with a K. And if you go to KoachKatlyncom/this show, KoachKatlyncom/this show, there you're going to be able to catch up on the latest episodes. You're going to be able to donate if you want to partner with us. You're going to be able to check out my books that I have, Habits Not Hopes, which is 10 success habits that the most successful people have, and then Slay and Pray, a 30-day devotional. There's also ways to book me to come speak at your churches. I'm now booking different speaking engagements and so forth. So make sure you go to KoachKatlyncom/the show. That's Coach with a K. But let's go ahead and just dive into today's topic. That's enough about me. Today we're going to talk about something that's really close to my heart, because I think a lot of people have experienced, especially in the past couple of years, detours. Life has not gone how they planned. And sometimes detours are good and sometimes they're bad, but a detour is a detour. You know, I've been in the car and I've gone on a detour and ended up being a scenic route, and it's beautiful. And so that detour wasn't that bad. It did take a lot longer. And a detour through Atlanta is always a nightmare. So, but there have also been other detours in life that have really caught me off guard and have really been difficult to recover from. And I've met so many people who've experienced difficult detours in life. Maybe it's a divorce I didn't expect. Maybe it's a cancer diagnosis. Maybe, you know, in the past couple of years, we've seen so many people lose a job, or their finances went from great to nothing at all. And we're seeing so many changes in our society as a whole right now. And many people are taking detours. You know, that family member you thought would always be around, they're not around anymore. Or, you know, you're going through a difficult time parenting. You thought that one kid was always going to be good, and you were like, yeah, we're good to go. And then they just went off the deep end. And you've had detours in life. But a lot of times what I found is that a detour can often lead to our destiny. A detour can often lead to our destiny. And God doesn't let detours just happen. He has a purpose for them. He allows them to happen. Sometimes detours happen because of our own choices. I know for me, sometimes I just made bad choices and it took a detour. And that's on me, but God still brings out destiny through detours. I love the statement that says, and I say it all the time, but I love it because God is a God of redemption. God is a God of grace. And it says that bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. The bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. And so I wanted to talk today. You know, I love bringing on expert co-hosts to talk about a topic. And today we're talking about detour to destiny, because I believe that there are many of you watching today, felt very impressed preparing this episode, that you're in a detour right now and you think that it's the end of the road, that it's over, life will never be good again, everything is just done, everything's finished, it's the end, nothing will turn around. But I'm here to tell you that that detour is taking you to your destiny. And I brought somebody on, again, Miss Paula G, who has been through this, and we're going to be encouraged today through her story. So, Paula, welcome, and tell us a little bit about Paula G. What does our audience need to know about you personally, first of all?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited for you, for your platform, for your journey, all the things you have done, and all the things that you are doing. So thank you so much for including me in this journey.
Well, thank you for being here. Y'all are going to be blessed. So,
who is Paula G? Oh my gosh, Paula G is a woman who has transformed. I'm a radio and television personality.
As you can tell, her voice is like, if she woke me up in the mornings, I would never wake up because it's so soothing. Sorry, but like
That's
fabulous.
Okay. I'm an author, as you mentioned, a voice talent, and a lifestyle print model. And I am juggling this journey that we call life while walking in the gifts and talents that God has given me. And I'm encouraging others to do the same by resurrecting their forgotten dreams.
Love that.
Resurrecting those dreams, breathing life into those dreams, and having them come to manifestation, making those dreams a reality, using their God-given gifts and talents. You know, Miles Monroe said that the richest place, the richest place on the planet is the cemetery, because so many people go to their graves having not utilized the gifts and the talents that God is giving them. So I'm encouraging others to make those changes, make those transformations, navigate through those detours, and we're going to talk about those a little bit, and just move on into the fullness of what it is that He has created them to do.
I mean, that's just so amazing, and and people do. The graveyard is the wealthiest place on earth, and people need to unlock those hidden treasures within them that God has placed in them. And guys, I know we're going to hear more from Paula, but I just want to plug this in. Paula wrote a book, My Journey to Lady Wisdom After Midnight. So PaulaGVoice.com, and follow her on social media, because she can only tell a glimpse of her story today, but there's so much more. And so you definitely want to get her book and go to PaulaGVoice.com. But so you're inspiring people now. You are in the industry. You're doing show. You're doing radio. Obviously doing radio. Move over, Delilah. Paula G's in the house. And so you're doing all these things, print modeling. But your life was always not on this path, and you took a detour in your life, a pretty big detour. So tell us about that.
Yes. So, you know, my detour occurred, oh gosh, now it's been maybe, I had to sit and think about that, maybe 15, 17 years ago.
See, the detour will just get so behind you because you're walking to your destiny.
Exactly. You know, and prior to that, I was a military spouse. I'd been a military spouse for over 20 years. And I always say that 9/11 was the first day of the rest of my life, but I didn't know it at the time. And what unfolded after that led to the end of my marriage. And for me, my whole adult life was spent as a military spouse. So now I find myself single and civilian at the same time. You know, when you are fresh out of college, you get married, you know, you stay married for 20-some years, then you're out here and you're single. That's like the rug being pulled out from under you.
Oh my goodness, such a change immediately.
It's such a change. And then when you are a military spouse all of your adult life, and then now you're, you know, out in the civilian world, going from that military world to the civilian world. And those of you who have made that transition on any level, you know going from military to civilian, it's a bit of a different culture. So I had those two changes going on. And at the same time, I found myself going back to graduate school, because now that I was single, had been this military spouse, served as this military spouse, had worked throughout my husband's career, but it was sporadic because we moved around a lot, you know, in the country, out of the country, and sometimes you didn't have the opportunity to be employed. So I found myself in graduate school. All of this is going on at the same time, and trying to get my bearings, because I felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. I was working on a project for my master's degree, and I remember it's November 10th, 2004, and I'll never forget that date. On my way to the bookstore, I'm in my car, I'm at a stoplight, and I see this vehicle approaching behind me at a high rate of speed, but I didn't think anything of it. I was at the stoplight, and I figured, you know, they would slow down, they would stop. And I looked up in my rear view mirror, and I saw the grill of a Yukon SUV coming through the back window of my vehicle. The police report said that he had hit me at 85 miles per hour. And at impact, I just felt like I was in a bumper cars. You know, you've been to the bumper cars at the fair. I felt like I was in a bumper cars, just, you know, rolling around and around. And when the car stopped, you know, these things, these fragments that come to mind, I felt like, you know how when you're in the shower and the water's just kind of running down over your face? And I'm wondering, where's this water coming from in front of my face? Where's this water coming from? And I looked down at my hand, and my hand was as red as my dress. And I realized my head had hit the windshield and just the impact, and it, you know, there was just a lot of bleeding and bruising and so forth. I had to be cut out of the vehicle. It was really a horrific, horrific experience, but I was so blessed because two reasons. One, my daughter, who was usually with me at that time of day, she was in the marching band and she played the tenor drums, which are those 4 drums. She and the drums are usually with me in the car. And fortunately that day she was not with me, nor were her drums, you know, in the car as well. And the recovery for that was maybe 3 months or so.
Right.
And I was already feeling devastated. I was already feeling like I was at the end of my life. Things were changing. I didn't know who I was, you know, during that time. So having all of these things occur for me was a major detour.
Right.
Because there was so many at one time.
Identity crisis.
Yes, identity.
You are literally going from being married to single, having this identity as an army wife and or a military wife, a service member wife, and then not that, and then you have a wreck on top of that. It's like this saying goes that when you think that they've thrown everything at you but the kitchen sink, and then here comes the kitchen sink.
And here comes the kitchen sink. And you know, it was just a devastating time for me because so many different things were happening at one time, and now I'm facing physical challenges as well, you know, as a result of the injuries.
And a single mom.
And a single mom, you know, and going to grad school. Well, going back to grad school, at the time I was 45, and I remember the first day I went to class. I remember the first day in class, I'm like, every single one of these students could be my children, you know, and going back into the classroom after being out of the classroom for 20-some years, that's a little challenging.
Yeah.
That's a little challenging. And I remember one night, you know, they say late in the midnight hour.
Right.
And I remember one night, it was around 3:30 in the morning, and it was late in the midnight hour, and I was home alone, and I was weeping and I was wailing because I was just so hurt and so broken. And I finally fell asleep, and I remember waking up in the morning, it was about maybe 6:30 in the morning, and I was looking up at the ceiling, I was still on the floor, and I said to myself, I'm not getting off of this floor until my mindset changes so that I can get up and begin to move in a new direction, begin a new life, and to define who Paula was. Because at that time when people asked, who is Paula, I couldn't answer the question.
Right.
You know, well, I'm someone's spouse and I'm someone's mother and I'm an educator, you know, but I couldn't answer who is Paula.
Right.
And I laid there for another couple of hours.
Yeah.
But when I got up, I said, Lord, you have brought me through this for a reason, this vehicle accident. I later went back and saw my vehicle, and it was like an accordion. The only part of it that was somewhat intact was the place that I was sitting. And I always say that God placed me in the palm of his hand that day. In his palm of his hand, because the rest of the car was just gone. So I knew that he had saved me for a reason.
I love that, and I love what you're talking about. You know, there is a season to mourn. I mean, the Bible talks about that. There is a season to mourn. There is a time to get back up, and I feel like there are many of you today who there's an overextended season of mourning. It's overextended, and you took time, but you had to make the choice to not allow the detour to take you from your destiny and to use it. The detour wasn't against you, it was for you and to go towards your destiny. And there are many of you watching today and you would say, well, I'm not that strong to go. I mean, you literally started your life over. You restarted at 45, which is young, by the way, but you restarted. And there are many of you today and you are facing some type of problem, some type of detour. Maybe it's a divorce. Maybe it's like, I feel like I should go back to school, but I'm intimidated. But there's a point where you have to make the choice to get up off the floor, do the hard things, and say, I'm not going to live in the past, but I'm going to walk in my future. And so such a powerful story, you know. So how did, you went through so much.
Yes.
Went through so much, what a detour, you know, the wreck, everything. How did that moment, you got back up off the floor, how did it lead you to your destiny?
It's as you said, it was the mindset change. You have to change the mindset.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you're going through, we all have a journey, and your journey is different. And like you mentioned, Katlyn, you know, there are these different things that cause us to detour, but you have to change your mindset. And at that moment, when I got up to, you know, to answer your question in regard to, you know, how did I make that change? It was a mindset change. I was determined that there was nothing that I could do about what was behind me, but there was plenty that I could do about what was in front of me. I used to
say that again, Yes, 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 just amen.
There's nothing I can do about what is behind me, but there's plenty I can do. There's plenty that you can do about what is in front of you. I used to tell my students, because when I earned my master's, I earned a master's in education, school counseling. And I used to tell my students, if you're driving a vehicle and you focus on that rear view mirror, what is going to happen? And they're like, well, you know, you probably get in a car accident. Exactly, but if you focus on that front windshield and you're looking through that front windshield, you're going to get to your destination. And I always use, you know, I always use that analogy. I had a dear uncle when I was younger. I was a child. There was this, I'm telling my age now, but there was this.
No, no, you look fabulous, so
Thank
no
you.
age. The Lord's renewing your youth like the Eagles.
But he used to play this card game with me. It's called Old Maids. And I remember him sitting there playing with me one time at the game, and I didn't like the cards, so I just kind of wanted to get some new cards. And he just kind of popped my hand. He said, no. He said, you play the hand that you've been dealt, because life is not going to deal you another hand. So with that mindset, his voice was ringing in my ear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Lord, you have dealt me this hand. You brought me through these things for a reason. You brought me through these detours for a reason. And what I just started doing was just one day at a time. Right. You know, not trying to look too far ahead. Let me just get through this day. Great. Let me get through the next day. Right. Great. And, you know, I'm reminded of the Bible, you know, write the vision, make it plain. Yeah. And I had a vision of where I wanted to go, what it was that I wanted to do. Right. Then I began to write out a plan for that to occur, and then just began to take it one step at a time. Lord, give me the wisdom, give me the discernment, open the doors of opportunity, the resources, you know, for me to do these things that I've been called to do.
I love that, and I love that you just began to ask God for it. I think a lot of times we just expect it'll just show up. Whatever God wants for us, it'll show up. But the Bible says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you. And after you have made the decision to move forward like Paula did during your detour, there comes a time where you begin to ask God to say, I'm available, and ask God to open those doors for you. And not only opening the doors, but being obedient to walk through the doors. And I want to go back to what your uncle told you. You know, you cannot change the hand you're dealt. You know, sometimes you have a divorce that it really wasn't your choice. Somebody else made that choice. Or you lost a job and it really wasn't your choice. It was dealt to you. Or you grew up and, you know, maybe you have a rough family and it kind of led you down a path. But you get to choose how you play the hand you're dealt. And whatever detour you've been taken off, or maybe you feel like your whole life has been a detour, guess what? It can lead you to your destiny if you learn how to use the cards you've been dealt. And I'm sure that you were like, God, open my eyes to the resources in front of me. What can I do now? What can I do now to get to where I want to be? And there are many of you watching, you're waiting for things to be perfect, and nothing is ever perfect. Was anything ever perfect?
Never.
I'm still trying to figure out when it's going to be
Never.
perfect.
And you know, I had to learn to be okay with making mistakes. I had to learn to be okay with being embarrassed sometimes, because I learned in those moments, because those are obstacles as well, you know, because then it kind of starts playing with your mind like, oh, you know, you start telling yourself, see, I know I shouldn't have done this because I've made a mistake or I've gotten embarrassed or whatever. But there were still lessons to be learned through that. I found this quote, and it's at the bottom of it was anonymous. I'm not sure who the quote was from, but it said, leap and the net will appear.
Ooh, I love that. Say that again.
Leap and the net will appear. And I said, okay, Lord, here I go. I'm going to take this leap.
Yeah.
And I'm going to trust and believe that the net will appear, because he's given me confirmation that this is the direction that I am to go in.
Yeah.
You know, you have to get that confirmation first. You don't want to leap without the
Right.
confirmation. That might not be good. But
Yeah.
but get that confirmation
Right.
from him, and then take that leap and trust and
Right.
believe. There were doors, even when I was starting the television show, no clue how to start it. Knew this is what I wanted to do.
Right.
But no clue as to what it was that I needed to do. And I just lifted that prayer, Lord, you have opened this door. Give me the wisdom and the courage to walk through, to recognize the resources when they become available, and the wherewithal to know what to do when this door opens, when this resource
Right.
becomes available, know what questions to ask. So it truly is a leap of faith.
I love that. And the leap of faith and then the net will appear. It makes me
Yes.
think of the story of Peter in the Bible. And he says, Jesus, if that's you, tell me to come.
Yes.
And when he heard the voice of the Lord, he didn't wait for him to get water walking shoes. He just got out of the boat and began to walk in there. Many of you who are watching this, you've been on a detour and you've already heard the voice of the Lord say, come, but you've been waiting for a mat to be rolled out. And God would say, come, take a leap, and the net will appear. And that's the thing about this journey, faith. Faith without works is dead. Faith in God without taking a risk, it's not faith, that much faith at all. So I want you to tell, people have learned so much today. What would you say to somebody, they're going through a detour right now and they don't see how they're going to make it through to destiny, that Paula can, but they can't.
But they can. I would tell you that you have to process, and this is the other part, which may be a whole nother show, but you have to
Perfect, you can come back.
You have to process the feelings and the emotions of whatever it is that you're going through. And that's something that at the time, hindsight, I didn't do. I was just kind of busy getting from day to day.
Right.
And you know, those things, there's this book that I read about, you know, how when you bury your feelings, they're still there, and you know, they'll resurface at a later date. Allow yourself the opportunity to process the pain, the anger,
Right.
whatever the emotions are. Allow yourself the opportunity to do that in a healthy way. Now, don't you know.
Right.
Allow yourself an opportunity to process those feelings, those emotions. Write down, like I was saying before, the vision. Write down what it is that you would like to do.
Right.
Write down what your wishes are, and just remove all of the, well, I would love to do this, or I want to do that, but. Remove the buts and just get it on paper.
Right.
Be prayerful about it. Get it on paper,
Yeah.
be prayerful about it. Begin to write that vision. Begin to ask God for direction, for discernment, you know, throughout the journey. I journaled like every day.
Yeah.
I journaled.
I love to journal. So freeing.
So freeing. No limits on your, you know, on what it is that you're writing and what it is that you're journaling. No limits on that. Just
Right.
getting it out, because that's the thing, is getting those emotions and
Yeah.
getting those feelings out, because that has a lot to do with the detour.
Yes.
We get stuck in depression. We get stuck in anxiety, and
Yeah.
we get paralyzed and we can't move.
That is, you really hit the nail on the head. In the detour, it's easy to get paralyzed in the emotions from it,
Yes.
and the problem from it. And we've got to release those emotions, or we're going to have a root of bitterness. You know, the Bible talks about not having a root of bitterness. And obviously, you know, I feel right now that there are particularly people watching who have just went through a very difficult divorce. And it was a detour they didn't expect. And they are trying to not get bitter about it. Besides journaling, how did you not allow the hurt of the past to dictate your future?
Oh gosh, well that was.
I mean, just a light question, you know, just a light
Just a
question.
light question.
Yeah, easy.
You know, they say forgiveness, and that is certainly true, but that's a journey in itself.
Yes.
Because you have to release that, because a lot of times the other person moves on, you're still kind of wallowing in this anger and this bitterness, and trust and believe, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But at some point, whether you get resolution from that other person or not, you have to find a way to release that, because you cannot move forward into the fullness of who you are, the opportunities that God has. God may have somebody else down the road for you.
Yeah.
He may have somebody else down the road for you. So you've got to be able to process those feelings so you can get to a point of forgiveness.
Right.
And then that opens the doors.
Yeah.
It opened the doors for me. There was a time when people said, "Oh, Paula, there's life after divorce." I wasn't hearing it. You know how sometimes they say it goes in one ear and out the other.
Right.
It wasn't even going in my ear. It wasn't even going in.
Yeah.
You know, so it's time heals, as they say.
Right.
Time heals. It is not an easy journey. It is
Right.
not an easy. I'm sitting here telling you, it is not an easy journey. I may make it look like it's an easy journey at this point in
Right.
time, but this is the other side of coming through, you know, those obstacles and trusting and believing and taking it one day at a time.
I love that. And, you know, for those of you watching, and I just felt that, you know, going through a divorce and that's your detour, you know what? It's always so wonderful to get the vision of somebody who's come through,
Yes.
they've done the work, and they're on the other side, and that is you. And so I'm so excited that you can look at Paula, and there are other people in your life who may still be wallowing in a divorce that they've experienced, but Paula is thriving and looking fabulous, and she is someone you can look to be encouraged. And so today, Paula, just thank you so much for being with us today. You know, there are so many of you. Is there any last thing you would want to share with those watching today?
I just want to share with the audience. I always close my shows with this, and I share it because it speaks to me, and I'm speaking to myself, that the greatest conversation, I want you all to be encouraged, but the greatest conversation that you will ever have is the one that takes place in between your ears. What are you speaking to yourself? Because the words that we speak over ourselves,
Yes.
you know, they vibrate through our being. What are you speaking to yourself? Is God a part of that conversation? And are you listening to his still small voice?
Paula, thank you so much. Listening to that still small voice, because just like when we go on a detour with our GPS, it guides us back onto the right path, even though we go through roads we didn't expect to go through. That is how God is, but we got to hear the still small voice to navigate through those new roads, those new obstacles, and to know that your detour can lead to your destiny, and Paula is proof of that. And that's why you've got to go to paulagvoice.com. You've got to check it out. You've got to get her book, My Journey to Lady Wisdom After Midnight. You've got to follow her on social media, because she is somebody you can look to say, I may be going through a tough time today, but she made it through her detour. I can make it through my detour. And we all need somebody ahead of us who's gone through something that we can listen to and trust into. So thank you for being here, Paula. Thank you all for being here on the Pink Couch today. Make sure you go to KoachKatlyn.com/the show to check out ways we can stay connected. We'll see you on the Pink Couch next time. Have a great day.